Sure, one last kick. This is gonna be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this. And Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions. And there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal. Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a fourth, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me. That is absolutely unbelievable. Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and bettered it. Another whip ball in. The header is in by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. A very good evening. Welcome to Carabao Cup Live for our second leg of the semi-finals, as we look to see who will join Arsenal in this year's final. Manchester City with a 2-goal advantage from the first leg at St James's Park. So Newcastle, the holders, have work to do if they want to retain their trophy. As I said already last night, Arsenal booked their place at Wembley, beating Chelsea by 1-0 after a 3-2 victory in the reverse fixture back at Stamford Bridge. Kai Havertz's goal in added time of that game secured the victory for the Gunners, 4-2 on aggregate. 97th minute for the former Chelsea player, of course, Kai Havertz scoring the winner for Arsenal last night. And what was a game that was, I mean, I watched the second half of it and it was pretty much low-key in terms of the chances that were had. Only 2 shots on target each. But tonight I'm expecting something a little bit more dramatic from these two teams, albeit, I mean, it's all in City's hands. From the reverse fixture, Antoine Semenyo, followed by Ryan Cherki, that late goal, securing City a 2-goal lead. Of course, it could have been more, that controversial disallowed goal as well. Maybe just about keeping Newcastle in the tie, but it is going to be one hell of a tough task for them tonight if they are to find a way back and to head to Wembley in just over a month's time. Because, as I said, a 2-goal deficit plus their away record this season for Newcastle, and not even just their away record, their recent form has been far from something to really enter this game into. 3 defeats in the last 6, just 1 win in those 6 games for Newcastle, and they're without an away win in all competitions this calendar year, in 2026, so far, as you can see the defeats. That first leg defeat to Manchester City kicked it all off, really, this poor run of form. A goalless draw away at Wolves. Their one and only win in this recent run was the PSV Eindhoven game in the Champions League. They won 3-0, but have lost 2-0 to Villa. Drew 1 each away at PSG, albeit a pretty good result, and then thrashed 4-1 by Liverpool on Saturday night just gone. So certainly their away form this calendar year has been pretty poor as well. 2 draws and a loss. Their home form hasn't been much better. As I said, just 1 win in those last 6. Something that Eddie Howe wants to get right. And they really need to get right. They need to come here and perform and probably have one of their best games of the season, Newcastle, if they're going to go back to Wembley, a place that they visited quite often over the last few years. They were in the 2023 final. They lost 2-0. They made it all the way back last season to the 2025 Carabao Cup final, where they beat Liverpool by 2-1. But could their end in this competition come tonight? It looks very likely, but we will see, of course, between now and 10 o'clock tonight, suspectedly, to see who will go through. A reminder for you, extra time and penalties are in play to find a winner if we need that. But remember, City have a 2-goal advantage, so they are in the driving seat on Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. And they haven't been in the best form themselves as of recent either for Manchester City. They've dropped a couple of points in the last few games. They drew away at Spurs from a 2-goal lead in that one during the weekend. They're hoping to bounce back from that, I'm sure, Manchester City, and book their place in a final back to this trophy that really they'd made their own over quite a number of years. As we mentioned previously, the real love affair with this competition has kind of disappeared over the last few years, and they want to retain that. But whoever it is will face Arsenal at Wembley on Sunday the 22nd of March in the Carabao Cup final for Cup glory. Will it be Manchester City for what will be they will be hoping for the 9th time, or will it be Arsenal for the first time they've been in a final since 2017-18? Manchester City, of course, the last final was 2021. So whatever it is, if they go through, it will be one of those big rematches. Of course, Arsenal-Manchester City will be a classic, but Arsenal-Newcastle will be one for the ages as well. Newcastle hoping to retain their trophy, but as I said, it's going to be one tough task. Not many come to the Etihad and leave with victory. Newcastle are going to have to do that by a 3-goal margin if they're to do it on the night inside 90 minutes. It's not an easy task whatsoever. Let's have a look at the two teams then for tonight's game, and some changes from Pep Guardiola's City. James Trafford continues in goal, of course. A back four of Mateus Nunes, Abdirkadir Kushanov, Nathan Ake alongside him, and Nico O'Reilly, we believe, is at left back, but could interchange, could quite possibly. With Ryan Aït-Nouri, who we believe is further forward. Nico Gonzalez is in the defensive midfield role with alongside Reinders and Foden further forward. Semenyo, and we believe Aït-Nouri could also join him further forward, with Omar Marmoush leading the City line. Donnarumma, Diaz, Alain, Lewis, Cherki, Rodri, Napan, and of course Erling Haaland all on the bench. No Mark Guehi tonight, as he was signed after the first leg, therefore can't play in the tie. For Newcastle, well, that defeat to Liverpool at the weekend was quite humbling. Eddie Howe said it didn't really reflect the game overall. Well, this scoreline certainly reflects their first leg performance. Aaron Ramsdale starts in goal. They've gone for a back three tonight, or a back five, whatever way you want to look at it. Trippier and Hall, the wing-backs, with Chow, Botman and Byrne, the centre-backs. Tonali and Willock as alongside Ramsey in midfield, with Gordon and Voltemata, we believe, further forward. And of course, that team that was without any recognised strikers away at Liverpool at the weekend. Some tweaks and a change of system, maybe a change of result for Eddie Howe's team when they need it most. On the bench, Pope, Murphy, Shahar, Elanga, Visa, Barnes, Osula, Jacob Murphy, and of course Niamh. It is Manchester City against Newcastle at the Etihad. City have a two-goal advantage. It's all for the holders to do if they want to retain this trophy. But surely the ball is in Manchester City's court. Kick-off at the Etihad is next. A very good evening. Welcome to Carabao Cup Live for our final action before the final on the 22nd of March. The penultimate game in this season's competition. And we're hoping for a real classic to see who will join Arsenal in this season's final. And Arsenal-Chelsea tie that started so brightly, a 3-2 result at Stamford Bridge. It turned into a real, no offence, but a bit of a disappointing return leg where both sides just took it too nervously, really. In the end, Arsenal come out with a victory. And their strong defence held firm. And they're into the final for the first time in 8 years. Well, we're underway here at the Etihad. City looking for their first final in 5 years. And Newcastle, of course, as I said, looking to retain this trophy. And they are one game away from that. But again, a big deficit to overcome. They're going to need to really get the first goal. That's probably obvious as the thing you could say, that they need the first goal tonight, Newcastle. If they don't get it, you kind of wonder, will City just be comfortable at cruising their way through this game if they score early? They can't afford to be too open defensively, Newcastle, but they need to be more expansive. They need to use the quality of their attackers. Oh, here's a bit of pressure from City early doors. Marmoush tiptoeing towards the box. Marmoush! Shot was blocked on the edge, but picked up by O'Reilly. And City showing their ideas right from the off here. Wanting to put pressure on the visitors' early doors. O'Reilly across to Gonzalez. Kushanov into Phil Foden, and out wide it goes to Matej Nunes into Semenyo. Good quick sharp passing for Manchester City early doors here. Newcastle just trying to hold them off, and a bit of a push in the back of Matej Nunes by Lewis Hall. We'll see a City free kick. Of course, the back three they played last midweek in Paris, in that final Champions League game of the league phase, and albeit they didn't get the victory, a pretty strong defensive result, and won a game they probably could have won and weren't too far away from winning. Newcastle, with the number of chances they had, in the end drew 1-1 and could only reach the knockout playoffs, and they were in a strong position going into the night, but it's the toughest task, and an already 2-goal deficit to overcome is going to make it even tougher. City win the ball back again. Semenyo having to drift backwards, and of course he scored the opener in the first leg. Got City off the mark in what was a pretty touchy and cagey game at St James's Park before the opening goal. It then kind of exploded into life, and City got that opener, and of course Semenyo had a second goal that was ruled out for offside against Erling Haaland, if you remember, quite controversially, and in the end Ryan Cherky did put the cap on it at the very end to give City a 2-goal lead, which was probably the most damaging part of the game for Newcastle. They were pushing for that leveller to try and get on terms, and then ultimately committed too many forward and conceded the late second, which has them in such a tough position. City are just suffocating them with possession at the moment. I think over 70, almost 80% of the ball in the first 3 minutes for Pep Guardiola's side. Here's Gonzalez looking for the switch ball. Nunes does well to chop inside, but Hall's got the better of him, and Willock tries to release his man, but the referee is actually going to pull it back for a foul on Lewis Hall. I don't know whether they wanted to play on there, Newcastle, but the referee, Tony Harrington, has pulled it back, and it's a free kick to the visitors. One key aspect of this game, Newcastle, I already said, need to really target is their pace on the counter. Anthony Gordon on one side, and Ramsey, Willock from midfield, and then Nick Voltham out of the finisher up top. Really need to get those four into real action tonight for Newcastle. If they don't, they'll be in a lot of trouble. Here's Lewis Hall down the left, surrounded by 3 City players as Semenyo ushers it out, albeit for a Newcastle throw-in, giving Lewis Hall no time on the ball whatsoever there. Here's Lewis Hall again, shielded out down the left-hand side, and turns back into the path of Semenyo, who does well this time and wins a throw-in out of Dan Burn, who'd come across to help his fellow defender. Here's Matej Nunes, taken down by Ait Nouri under pressure from Trippier. Ait Nouri feeds it back to Ake. O'Reilly. Ake back to James Trafford. Well, of course, obviously both sides didn't have the desired result from their games in the Premier League at the weekend. City dropping from 2 goals up to draw 2-2 away at Spurs. Probably could have lost that game late on, with Spurs creating the chances they did ultimately, but in the end the draw was enough, and probably he would be pretty pleased with how they threw that game away, City, and still come out with a point. But great comeback from Spurs, and then Liverpool absolutely turned it on against Newcastle after going 1-0 down. Anthony Gordon giving the Magpies the lead at Anfield, and then Liverpool just tore them apart. Ugo Ekitike 2 goals before the break, and then Bates and Konate with the goals afterwards in the second half, adding a little bit of spice to the scoreline ultimately in the end. That's kind of what Eddie Howe pointed to after the Liverpool game on Saturday. He kind of said that they didn't feel that the scoreline accurately reflected the game. Oh, here comes City on the breakaway. Cherky! And the ball's going to find the net. It's looped up and over. And it's Omar Marmoush who's given Manchester City an early lead. And surely that might be, even after just 7 minutes, might just be the final nail in the Newcastle coffin. It's very early in the game to say so, but from 3 goals down now, 2 was hard, 3 is all but impossible. City 1, Newcastle 0, Manchester City lead 3-0 on aggregate. You got to say, really good football down that left channel. I think it was Foden that linked it up, was it? Really good football in between the lines. Ball played out to Omar Marmoush. Broke in behind the defence. Really poor from Newcastle. I got to say, from that one side, really lacking. And I think Dan Burn just takes a deflection. It loops up over Ramsdale. And it finds into the back of the net. Omar Marmoush back in from the cold, from the AFCON. The disappointment of being knocked out at the semi-final stage with Egypt. And it looks like he's going to get past the semi-final stage with his club in this competition. Only 7 minutes played. It's Manchester City 1, Newcastle 0. City lead by 3-0 on aggregate. And it looks like it's going to be a real tough night for the holders in Manchester, because they now need to win by 4 goals from this point. Score 4 goals from this point without reply to win inside 90 minutes. I mean, that is incredibly tough. Not many have scored 4 away from home at City. I don't even know what the stats are on that, but it's not good. But here they want an instant response. Ball in behind. Chance to go round the goalkeeper and hit it straight at James Trafford. I think it might have been Joe Willock, it was. Again, from Newcastle, they get the ball wide into space. And as it's fed through, it's Anthony Gordon. Doesn't want to run through, plays it off to Joe Willock, who tries to round the goalkeeper. Trafford did really well down to his right-hand side, got his right hand to it. And in the end, made the block, and Joe Willock couldn't convert. But Newcastle almost with an instant response. Albeit, though, no joy ultimately. Ball in behind. A bit of threat here. Nicely held on to. Ultimately by Gonzalez, but in the end couldn't quite find Semenyo, and Dan Burn blocks it out for the throw. But Newcastle, I mean, what does Eddie Howe do here? Like, at this minute in time, I mean, City will just dominate and control this game, surely. If not, want to add a little bit more to the scoreline. It's kind of the one thing as a neutral to make it an interesting tie. You didn't want to happen early doors, was Manchester City to score. You wanted a bit of excitement. You wanted it to tighten up. Maybe Newcastle get the opener and then make it interesting. But again, it's lacked intensity so far, and City have been all over every little movement that Newcastle have made. After just 10 minutes, they've got a long 80 minutes or so to go. I've seen stranger things happen, but it is an almost impossible comeback opportunity. But here's Kieran Trippier trying to flip it over the top, over the head of Anthony Gordon, who made the run, and it's comfortably guided back to James Trafford in the City goal. Gotta say, there's no ticky-taka pass in between these two. They're both trying to be a bit more direct, a bit more aggressive when they do have the opportunity to get forward. Foden here, nicely dispossessed by Byrne, who's stretching, and even if he does stretch for the ball, still can't rein it in. And here comes City again. Tiani Reinders breaking through the lines. Reinders lays it out wide to Marmoush. Back to Ait-Nouri, edge of the box. On the half turn. Reinders! Off target it goes, but again, City coming close. Again, it's down that left-hand side. I mean, it's really, really sloppy again from Newcastle. It's Malik Chow, he dives in, and then Tonali on the cover has to try and block Gianni Rounders. Just leaves that gap in behind, and again, that's similar to what happened for the goal. Thiaw committed himself and he left the gaps in behind, and City were able to exploit with Marmouche. Becoming a similar issue for Malik Chow. I don't want to put everything that Newcastle are doing wrong on him, but it's that side of the defence that's really looked leaky. Even in the Liverpool game, and remember Ugo Ekitike's second goal for Liverpool, if you watched it, it was Malik Chow that gave him too much space, that was a little bit too hesitant in his defending. It's just about his space and his time, and when he presses and when he doesn't, it's finding the balance as this ball bobbles its way towards Joe Willock. Crosses the halfway line, lays it out wide to Hall. Lovely from Gordon from deep, finds Willock again, but shielded by a sea of blue in front of him. Back to Tonali. Chow out to Trippier. A little 1-2 with Ramsey, sees it back to Malik Chow again. I think Newcastle just need to take the sting out of this, get a bit of the ball and maybe start to threaten themselves. 1 or 2 half chances, maybe just try and fight their way back into this game. They're under so much constant pressure as Burn goes long, and again, completely surrendered the ball there to Newcastle, back to City. And of course, it's all looking pretty good for Pep Guardiola's team. They're looking to reach their 10th League Cup final. They would be the 4th team to do so. Liverpool have been to 15, Chelsea 10 before this campaign, and Man United on 10 as well. So only Liverpool would have reached more League Cup finals than City if they go through tonight. Despite that though, Newcastle are in a pretty unique position themselves. They're looking to become just the 2nd team to overturn a 2-goal deficit or more from the first leg to reach a League Cup final, after Aston Villa against Tranmere in the 93-94 season. They lost 3-1 away and won 3-1 at home on penalties, did Villa. Ultimately, the only side to have come from 2 goals or more down in the first leg to win and head to the final. And that's the sort of position, if not a worse position, that Newcastle find themselves in right now. See here, Phil Foden a little bit late on his challenge on Lewis Hall. I mean, he got the ball cleanly. It's just the follow through that, it's just the momentum that carries Phil Foden through. There's not really much you can do about that. And Pep Guardiola makes the claim, and yeah, it's hard to disagree. There's not much Phil Foden really could have done there. The referee did give the free kick though, which has been taken from inside the Newcastle half. Ball flicked on, up and away by O'Reilly. Drops for Ramsey, who kicked right through it over the bar. Nowhere near threatening Trafford's goal. I think this point is all about just going for it for Newcastle. They've got nothing to lose. I mean, they had nothing to lose coming into the game. They were 2-0 down already from the first leg. It's really at this point, just go for it, see what you can do. And I think Eddie Howe and his team are trying to figure out a scenario in which they can get any sort of chance at getting back into this game, but it's easier said than done. And the record at at the Etihad, same city, different, completely different team. And the record at the Etihad is absolutely torrid over the last number of years. I'll tell you about that in a moment, because here comes City again. It's now this time the chance from the wide area. I think it was Aitnouri, was it? It was Ryan Aitnouri bursting forward down that left, and it's Chow that gets his body in the way. But again, the little 1-2 down that side, and it's blasting down that side was Ryan Aitnouri. In the end, Malik Chow engages at the last second, forces the deflection over for the corner. But again, it's down that left side that Newcastle are getting torn apart again. And they look really lacking in numbers down that side. They're playing a back five, but it looks like there's 1 or 2 defenders down that side. It's very lacking as the corner comes in. They wanted a penalty there for handball to City, but scrambled away. Only as far as Marmoush, who picks it up on the right-hand side. Lots of bodies in the area. Marmoush goes low to the edge, finds Foden. Cutting it back. Reinders. Gonzalez. Opening up for a shooting opportunity. They can't really get it as O'Reilly whips in. Drops. Foden. Hit it on the overbounce. Semenyo back with it. I mean, they're trying their very hardest here to get a shot off. It's back to Marmoush. Now Semenyo across. And no one throwing themselves in there. O'Reilly was the closest. But Newcastle get away with it. Again, they're on the ropes here, to say the very least. That's being kind to Newcastle. I mean, City are absolutely destroying them at the minute. One touch, sharp pass, and know every little movement. And this is such a crowded area. Semenyo finds the only little bit of space and tries his ever hardest to find O'Reilly at the back post. Beautifully fed across. And O'Reilly just a yard or so behind it, but there is no escaping what has been a ruthless and fiery Manchester City so far in the first 18 minutes of this game. If there was any hint coming into it that that City would be nervous from dropping points at the weekend and a bit shaky defensively, they've done everything right so far. And Newcastle haven't had a sniff. Here's Voltamata, first real action of the game, and he's dispossessed well by the recovering Aitnouri. Gonzalez back to O'Reilly. Looking for the flip ball over the top again. The space and time to run in behind. Here's Reinders. Cuts it back for Marmoush. Told to shoot. He does. Takes a deflection that will put it behind for the corner, but he responded to the crowd's shouts there of shoot, and that he did. Again, it's that ball over the top. And again, it's a misjudgment from Chow. Doesn't know whether to press in or stay deep and wait for the runner. And that time it was Reinders made the running behind. He timed it perfectly. And Chow was just a little bit too further forward, and the running behind, it was on every single time. And Newcastle are really massively struggling. We've got another corner to defend. Foden's delivery, left footed, up and away by Ramsdale. And as Aitnouri tried to recycle it, no one there in blue. Newcastle get the throw, but just short of 20 minutes gone. City 1, Newcastle 0. Omar Marmoush with the opener for City inside 7 minutes to extend their aggregate lead to 3-0. Newcastle in a pretty struggling position as Semenyo shot from range, low and hard, and dragged it wide of that left post. But again, from a Newcastle throw-in, I mean, really lackluster at all. No one trying to throw in a challenge, and Semenyo just has a pop shot at the edge of the D. And again, Newcastle look really off it at the minute. Considering all 4 semi-final teams played on Saturday. Oh, here's a ball in behind. Chance for Newcastle. Trafford with a save. I don't know whether it was Voltamata or Gordon. I think it might have been Nick Voltamata with the effort. See it in behind here. It's Dan Burn with a flick on. And it's followed up by Willock. And as it fell to Anthony Gordon, left-footed shot. Trying to go across goal, and ultimately, well, saved by James Trafford behind for the corner. But 1 or 2 glimpses of goal for Newcastle. On both occasions, the City goalkeepers come up trumps. They've got a corner to defend, though. Do City. Whipped in. Up and away in the middle by Nathan Ake. Trippier does enough to recycle. Hall from deep, trying to find Tonali, who got close, but in the end his header lifted by James Trafford comfortably. And they're showing some fight at least, Newcastle. One or two little glimpses, but they need an equalising goal quickly. The longer it stays at 3-0 to City on aggregate, I mean, obviously the more comfortable they will become. Newcastle just need to upset the momentum in this game, try and find a leveller and get themselves right back in the mix. But at the minute, in the last 5-10 minutes, they've been hanging on to a 1-goal deficit on the night. That could have increased massively on a few occasions with City's play tonight. Foden felt he was dragged, but the referee said no foul, and a little bit of space here to break down the right for Kieran Trippier. Trying to feed in behind for Gordon, who's quick to react to the loose ball from Aït-Nouri. Trippier to Ramsey. Now Tonali. I think one of the real main issues for Newcastle as well is that midfield. I mean, Willock and Ramsey, no disrespect to either of them, they're really good players and top quality in their positions, but they're no Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton, and that midfield three of Newcastle of Tonali, Joe Linton and Guimaraes a force to be reckoned with when they all play together, and you know, missing their club captain and Bruno Guimaraes, and then obviously the height, the physicality, the strength of Joe Linton in there too. It really just disjoints Newcastle, imbalances them. Here's Tonali though, finds Hall. Out wide it goes to Willock on the left touchline. Waiting for the overlap. Willock uses that as a decoy and plays it back to Dan Burn. And across to Botman and now to Malik Chow. Game settled a little bit in the last few minutes. Here's Gordon down the right side. Trying to keep the ball in play in the process. Couldn't. And couldn't keep possession. Throw into Manchester City. Andy says this jumped on automatically. Is Barnes playing? No. Harvey Barnes is on the bench for Newcastle. I'll show you the teams again. Just a quick recap on those teams for you. Nothing has changed on that front, but here, those are the teams that started the evening. And there's those starting 11s once again there for you. But at the moment, Harvey Barnes is on the bench for Newcastle, and I mean, he hasn't really been able to settle on a front line, Eddie Howe. I mean, he went for all wingers at the weekend. It was his chop and change between Barnes and Gordon and maybe even Murphy at times this season from wide positions, and just nothing really has settled for Eddie Howe and his team in terms of real solid players. I think Anthony Gordon's probably had the most minutes of any of them, and he only scored his first goal in 13 months at Anfield on Saturday, so it's not that any of them are in real great form, and it's probably making his decision more difficult and trying to really settle on a front line. Of course, they've got quite a few forward options now as well, in terms of centre forward options. Nick Voltemata and Juan Vesa, and then Will Osula as well, so there are options. Surely Nick Voltemata, of course, was going to get the nod for tonight's game, and he has. Here is Semenyo for City, edge of the area on the right hand side. Foden, back out wide it goes to Nunes. Foden, O'Reilly maybe tried to have a little shot there, but well recovered by Gonzalez. Back to Aït-Nouri. Down the left channel comes to Reinders. Has to work it back in field again, but City just looks so comfortable. That's the one word I'd say. Newcastle really haven't unsettled them, rattled them, got them out of their comfort zone. They've just been really settled, City, in the very first few minutes. I think we go back to that first even 40 seconds where they had their first real push of the game from the very off and just set the tone for the whole game, really. Newcastle really just haven't been able to upset that rhythm that City have settled themselves into, although that was a long time that Matheus Nunes held on to that ball, and he's given it away and ultimately has to drag down the Newcastle player in Lewis Hall, and he's going to get a yellow card for his troubles. You see it here. Nunes trying to do tricks. He slips the first time, and then as he tries to break past Hall, he then cuts back again. It's just kind of well challenged. I mean, it's far too selfish from Matheus Nunes. I mean, just pass the ball off. Held on to it for a good 10 seconds under pressure and ultimately gave it away. Had to pull the man down and give away, got a yellow card. And gives away a free kick in a dangerous position. A lack of good judgment there from Matheus Nunes. He gets himself booked. And a set piece for Newcastle. Still a good distance away, but well within shooting range. To the left-hand side of the goal as James Trafford sets up his wall. It's 4 in Newcastle colours around it, but it looks like Trippier's going to be the man that's going to take it. There's that Lewis Hall alongside him, but surely it's Trippier. He's setting the ball up and ready and waiting to go. Trafford's at any rate 1 or 2 big saves so far. What can Trippier test him with here? Kieran Trippier! Well saved by James Trafford. Dive to his right. And got a full clean 2 hands on the ball. Actually went right through the wall for Trippier. The wall kind of separated from City and Trippier found the gap. Albeit Trafford had it covered. Here comes City on the breakaway. Semenyo, a cross goal! And it's up and away. It's headed in by Omar Marmoush. Right place, right time. 2-0 to Manchester City, and it's Omar Marmoush again. Doubles the lead on the night and doubles the aggregate lead from the start of the night. Manchester City 2, Newcastle 0, 4-0 to City on aggregate. If there was any doubt before that they were going to Wembley, well, surely there's absolutely zero doubt now who's going to be going to the final out of this tie. Again, it's a simple breakaway, and there's 4 Newcastle players around the ball. None of them get anywhere near closing down Phil Foden. Foden lays it off to Semenyo. Semenyo gets it across, and then as it drops, trying to do miraculous defending at the back post. To try and clear it away was Kieran Trippier. Kind of looped it up into the air, and as it dropped, Omar Marmoush was there, hunting the ball. And as he did, headed it down into the empty net to double Manchester City's lead. And this is over. There's no doubt about that now. No doubt at all. Well, maybe there is a little bit of a question of offside, maybe. I don't know what they're actually checking. If they are checking anything VAR. Nonetheless, they've checked whatever they were doing, and it's been given. So it is 2-0. And it's now just going to be play for pride for Eddie Howe's Newcastle. There's surely absolutely no way that they'll score 4. I didn't think they would score more than 2 anyway coming into tonight's game. But now, it's such a tough position coming into tonight's game. I think we mentioned it a few weeks ago at the end of the first leg, how important that Cherky goal in added time was, and to double City's lead, just to give them that extra little bit of a cushion heading into this return leg. And if it was 1-0, it would be nervy, it would be close, it would be a lot more of a game, but a 2-0 scoreline and then the early goal from City really just put the game to bed from the off, and it's just going to really fall away from Newcastle. Quite disappointingly, really. I mean, they are the holders. They've almost got all the way back to try and retain their trophy. No offence to Newcastle, but a team like Newcastle, with all of their issues they've had in the league this season, to go on another big cup run and almost try and retain the competition that they won last season. It is a very good run and full credit to Newcastle, but at the end of the day, they haven't shown up at all in this tie. The first leg was pretty poor at home, and really, if you give them any chance of going through, it was at St James's Park. Here they come again, City. They're adding another. It's Semenyo, nicely taken off him, but the follow-up is in again. This is going to turn into a real right for Manchester City. It's 3-0, and it's to Yanni Reinders. 3-0 on the night, 5-0 on aggregate. This is turning into an embarrassment for the holders. 32 minutes gone, they're 3-0 down in the game. 5-0 down on aggregate, and this is, I mean, it's, for a team that are playing 5 at the back, it is the most open back 5 I've ever seen. There are spaces galore, there's no one closing down, there's no one tracking runners. It is a horrendous defensive performance from Newcastle, and City are just picking them off time and time again. And this is, I mean, it's been a disaster class from Newcastle. I mean, how City get from one end of the pitch to the other in the space of 2 passes is ridiculous. And Semenyo here, he gets the ball taken off him, but it just drops to Yanni Reinders. And again, Newcastle have loads of players in the box, but no one at all spots Yanni Reinders or tries to track him. All watching the ball, no one watching the man, and it's just dreadful again. And I mean, fair play to Manchester City, when the chances have dropped in their way, they've taken them. They've been clinical. But this is not even borderline embarrassing, it is just embarrassing for Newcastle. And this is a real killer. Albeit, though, you could maybe argue that the contrast between our 2 finalists, Arsenal did it by trying to hold Chelsea at bay last night and really hold them out and make sure they didn't score rather than they wanted to go and score themselves. And ultimately they did score in the match, Arsenal, with a last minute kind of breakaway. But I mean, City have given it a completely different approach. Let's go out and put it on them. Let's really go for the killer from the very off, and that's what they did, and they're having fun with it now. Here's Semenyo into the box again. Tracked around, he went down. Wanted a penalty. The referee said it was a fair challenge by Joe Willock. Now here's Anthony Gordon. Flips it into Hall in the middle. Hall's pass, takes a little deflection. Nice little 1-2 as both them out of battling, but drops to Ramsey. Now out to the left-hand side for Gordon. No, you think Newcastle are just keeping the ball to try and stop another goal going in. Every time City have the ball and have possession, breaking forward with ease and getting into really good positions to try and find more goals. You see this incident with Antoine Semenyo again, where he wanted the penalty. It was Byrne that actually made the challenge, it looks like. Yeah, Semenyo loses the balance of the ball, and as Byrne steps in, he kind of does clip Antoine Semenyo. Is it enough? It's a little soft for me. I can see why Semenyo thought it was a penalty, but it's a little soft. Free kick taken short by Newcastle. Hall. Gordon. Well, challenge, just out fighting them in the minute. Hall does well though, receiving the loose ball. To Trippier is the last man for Newcastle. I mean, they're afraid to give the ball away here. Hall switches it out to Gordon. Nicely taken in. Nice little flick. Overlapping was Willock. Willock beats past Nunez, and Willock's still going. So it drops to Gordon. Now Hall trying to lift it in. Lots of Newcastle players in and around the box, and in the end it's going to drop for a City free kick. As there was a foul there, Dan Byrne giving away the free kick. Yeah, well, say goodbye to a trip to Wembley for those Newcastle fans. Well, City have won 17 of their last 18 home games against Newcastle in all competitions. Now, of course, that might turn into 18 out of 19. It looks very much like that, including each of the last 11 in a row since a 2-0 loss in the EFL Cup fourth round in the 14-15 season. So a good long time ago, before Pep Guardiola was even the Manchester City manager. It was that long ago. 11 in a row City have won at home against Newcastle. That's why the record looks so. That's why it looks so much of a long shot as Foden wants to get involved. Well blocked by Ramsdale, but I mean, they're all queuing up for goals here tonight. I think all the City players think this is a stat padding night. Might get a goal for themselves, and again, it's dreadful. I mean, Lewis Hall. I mean, I don't know what he's thinking. Plays it into a dangerous pressured area, and it's really well done by Ramsdale to block the shot, but again, Newcastle looks so open. Another corner though, Phil Foden to take, right hand side. 7 minutes or so to go with a half. Foden's delivery is low, it's booted away at the near post by Nick Voltemata, behind for another corner. Throw in will come, actually, instead of a corner. Taken short by Nunez to Foden, back to Mateus Nunes. Oh, sloppy there from City as Gordon tries to hold it up. Nicely won back by Gonzalez. Into Semenyo. Back it goes to Reinders. Reinders, O'Reilly, Marmouche popping it around City with her fun right now. I think Newcastle are afraid to press them because they think they'll just get torn up in behind, and they have done so far. Nathan Ake down the line it goes. O'Reilly, Marmouche, Gonzalez. I could just say City players' names in repeat here because that's what's happening. Just popping it around, passes crisp and sharp and keeping the tempo up. It's just maintaining such dominant control. Right, Nuri inside to Gonzalez. Semenyo as he gives it back to Mateus Nunes. Cycling the ball consistently here. Newcastle sitting on a 5-4-1 out of possession. Nathan Ake. Well, really, you got to say, you know, I'm sure Pep Guardiola will be loving the scoreline, and he looked like he was enjoying it with a couple of those City goals. Celebrating strongly, of course, back to a final, a competition that you got to say Pep Guardiola's teams took, albeit I don't think anybody was disrespectful. I never really liked that approach of when people used to say that all the big teams used to really disrespect the Carabao Cup and the League Cup and said it was a useless trophy and no one really cared about it. Albeit I do think Pep Guardiola made it popular again. I think City winning it and being so dominant winning it, it made a number of teams waking up and go, well, this could be our opportunity, really kind of grab a trophy. And I think Chelsea took initiative on that. So did Liverpool. Arsenal have tried too. And Newcastle and Man United. I mean, a number of those top teams that have just recognised that maybe this is a trophy that can be a nice distraction And there's a trophy at the end of it if you get the victory. And of course, Liverpool have such great history in this competition. Manchester City, more recent history with a lot of their wins coming in the last 10 years in this competition. So it's a trophy that probably once 10, 15 years ago was no one liked it. Shot from range, straight down the throat of Ramsdale from Gonzalez. No one really tuned in. It was all about the FA Cup, but I think the Carabao Cup's given himself a real rise over the last number of years, and certainly I think with a number of the big clubs getting competitive back in it, not just Manchester City winning it every year over the last however many years it was. I think this competition over the last 3-4 years has been probably one of the most entertaining. Different winners, different semi-finalists, big teams, small teams, in comparative to the pyramid, of course. I think 2024 campaign, where Chelsea and Liverpool played the final, and Middlesbrough got to the semi-final, Fulham got to the semi-final, if you remember. Well, here's an issue for Newcastle. If there isn't already a number of issues, they're 3-0 down, they're 5 goals down in aggregate, they're going out of the competition and not going to retain their trophy. All of that combined with Anthony Gordon has just gone down off the ball, quite innocuous, which is far from what Newcastle want to see right now. And Harvey Barnes is hurriedly getting ready on the sidelines. I mean, if you were ever to wave a white flag in a game of football, you're 3-0 down after 42 minutes, you're 5 goals down in aggregate. There's no way in hell that you're getting back into this game. And now one of your main players has gone down off the ball. I mean, if ever was a time you'd say, just void the game, get rid of it, give them the win and let's go home, it would be now. And Anthony Gordon, unfortunately, is going to be the end of his night. Harvey Barnes on. It looks like a hamstring issue for Gordon, and he's telling his manager that as he trundles off the pitch at the Etihad. And I mean, who thought we would be here after 43 minutes? Anthony Gordon injured and Newcastle 3-0 down. I mean, it was a very realistic possibility. It could have. We've seen Manchester City do it before. You can tear teams apart, but this City team as of recent, we've not really seen it. Their ruthless nature. Marmouche on a hat-trick, remember. He's offside. He attracted Ramsdale to the ball there and thought he was going to do something magical, but in the end the flags went up and comes to nothing. Maybe one good thing for Pep Guardiola, that man, the Norwegian Erling Haaland, won't be needed tonight, it seems. A good rest for him. He seems to be enjoying himself on the bench. Erling Haaland at the minute, and why not? Of course, you wouldn't really have noticed it, but this will be his first League Cup final at Manchester City. If I'm not mistaken, he's been to every other ladder stage of every other competition, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, the FA Cup, Champions League. I don't think he's been to a Carabao Cup final in Manchester City colours, Erling Haaland. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that he has. 4 minutes of additional time at the end of this first half. I'm sure Eddie Howe's looking at the clock going, how is it only the end of the first half? This has probably been the longest 45 minutes of Newcastle's season. It's based on how dreadfully it's gone. Albeit, City are 3 up, they're 5 goals up in aggregate. They're absolutely destroying Newcastle. And, I mean, you could cut the atmosphere inside this stadium with a knife. I mean, it's horrendous. You go to any graveyard in the country, and it will be louder than what the Etihad is right now. Any graveyard, pick one, your favourite one. Because, I mean, it's dead. in comparison to last night when the Emirates was absolutely bouncing. It's probably their first final in decades. It's Arsenal's first final in 8 years, and they've worked so incredibly hard to get over the line. They've missed it so many times, but I mean, City haven't been in a Carabao Cup final in 5 years. It's been... Surely they would be looking forward to a day out at Wembley again, and it just seems like it's a bit... They're taking it for granted. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean, it doesn't look like they're pumped up in the stands, really. Corner. Free kick delivered in by Newcastle! Good save by Trafford. I gotta say, albeit Newcastle have been terrible defensively, but James Trafford has had to make some big saves already in this game. I think 3 really good saves, and that one, top of the list. Sven Botman's header. Full stretch Trafford. Makes a really good save. So corner to Newcastle. Taken short. Trying to go with the 1-2. Hall with the back heel. So now Trippier trying to go with the cross. They wanted a handball against Matheus Nunes. Referee said his arms were by his side and in his body shape, so no penalty. Corner it will be though. See it here. Trippier. Oh, well. His arm is here. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to reach for something. It's not a penalty. Corner it is though. That's certainly what it is. Are VAR looking at this? Confirmation that VAR did have a quick look at it, and they've concluded that on-field decision is correct. No penalty. Corner to Newcastle. Last minute of the half. Maybe one last chance to create something positive from this first 45 for Newcastle. Corner short again. Back to Hall. Looked in by Trippier. It's deep and it's into the hands of Trafford. He got his hands to it and then was fouled. So a free kick to Manchester City. As he jumped up, he got 2 hands on the ball, Trafford, and was just kind of body checked by Dan Burn. Ultimately a foul. And a free kick. You gotta say though, it's just been a horror of a first half for Newcastle. If you had a scenario board of what's the best possible scenario and what's the worst, this has to be up there on the list of the worst possible scenarios that could have happened. And the halftime whistle goes, and Manchester City are just 45 minutes away from a Wembley Carabao Cup final, where they will face off against Arsenal in a few weeks' time. Really, I'm not even going to keep it to ambiguity because they're 5 goals up on aggregate. Anybody still thinking this is a competitive tie is either stupid or blind, because Manchester City have torn Newcastle apart in the first half. Omar Marmoush with a brace to give them a 2-goal lead on the night. A 4-goal lead on aggregate before the third on the night. The 5th on aggregate was converted by Tiani Reinders. They could have had more. Semenyo had chances. Reinders had more chances as well. But ultimately, it is City who lead by 3-0 at the break on the night. 5-0 on aggregate. Wembley awaits Manchester City. Second half is on very shortly. We'll analyse that first. And the other semi-final tie. It was maybe a little bit closer in its battle when we come back very shortly. Do stay with us. Sure, one last kick. This is going to be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this. And Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions. And there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal! Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a 4th, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me! That is absolutely unbelievable! Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and battered it. Another whip ball in, the header is in! by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. Welcome back to Carabao Cup Live, second half between Man City and Newcastle on the way in around 10 minutes time, where it is tied, done and dusted really. There's no question about that at half time. City 3-0 up on the night and 5-0 up on aggregate, so there is no question that Manchester City will be joining Arsenal in this season's final. Of course, Omar Mamrouche with the first two goals. He scored in the first in the 7th minute, so an early quick start for Manchester City got them off the mark and probably set the tone in what was going to be a tough night for Newcastle. That's turned into a really terrible defensive performance. Then the second one, I mean, opportunistic at best from Omar Mamrouche, I gotta say. Really good position, and albeit in the end he was in the right place at the right time to head the ball into the back of the net. And then the third goal is once again just poor on the counter from Newcastle. They broke away City. The ball dropped to Tiani Rounders after Semenyo cut back inside and ultimately dropped for Rounders, who struck and swept onto it perfectly to make it 3-0 on the night. We've put a poll in the chat of course, who do you want to win the final? So not who you think will win the final, who do you want to be the winners of the Carabao Cup this season, of course. Is it Arsenal or Manchester City? Let us know in the chat. Do put your votes in there. At the minute, it's 50-50, Arsenal and Manchester City. So do let us know. And right now I'm getting some graphics done for the final, because we know who's going to be in it. And of course, remember, it is Sunday the 22nd of March. We will have the Carabao Cup final for you here on LFS. Now, we don't know exactly when. I believe it's a 4:30 kickoff from what I heard, but we can't be 100% certain on that. But it is that Sunday, and we will have that game live here on LFS for you, of course. I'll actually try and find out now for you. It is a 4:30 kickoff on Sunday the 22nd of March. And I don't know what Premier League games are being played that weekend, but I'm sure it's a Premier League weekend as well. Usually is. It's quite a few weeks later than it usually is, the Carabao Cup final this year. It's usually at the in the early March, kind of late February, early March. It used to be, but it's late March this year. And yeah, there are Premier League games that weekend. Of course, City are meant to play Crystal Palace on the 21st. That will be cancelled, of course. And Arsenal, who were due to play Wolves away that weekend, they play them now in the midweek prior to the final. So I would suspect City's game will turn out to be the same, and both will have busy midweek schedules before then. But it looks like, I mean, who am I kidding? It is going to be Arsenal against Manchester City in the 2026 Carabao Cup final. But I just think, I said it just before half time, if you had a scenario board, on one side the best case scenarios, and on the other the worst case scenarios, very high up on that list of worst case scenarios, if not the highest, would have been you're well out of the tie at half time and you've lost a player to injury in the first half. I mean, it's wave the white flag type of stuff at this moment in time. I mean, there's one of two ways this game could go. Either City could continue destroying Newcastle and keep piling on the pressure and keep adding the goals and keeping the tally up, or Newcastle can readjust, and with City not really maybe pushing for it in the second half, the game could end 3-0 on the night, 5-0 on aggregate. This game could go one of two ways, and really, who knows what way it could end up right now. I mean, City have played so well in that first half, but they really haven't had to do very much. It's been quite simple. Break with pace, and Newcastle are just going to stand off you. I mean, it's really baffling how simple it has been to break down Newcastle in this game. As I said, they were probably the most open back five I've seen all season, if not in the last number of seasons, because there's gaps galore. The defenders aren't tracking runners, they don't know who to track, and then if they have anybody in the vicinity, they're just running back into their own box. I mean, that Tijani Rounders goal is an example of a team and a defence that has no clue who they need to be marking, no clue what positions they need to be taking up, and they just look well out of it. They look completely lost at Newcastle, really. And defensively, I mean, there was kind of question marks over it coming into this game after the Liverpool game at Saturday night, and kind of the thoughts of, can they recover that? Will they do something different? Eddie Howe did do something different from the Liverpool game and went to a back five. I don't think it was defensively what their issue was in those games, and it might sound stupid to say they've conceded 4 in that game and 3 tonight, but I think, I said it early in this game, I think they struggle without that midfield of Guimaraes and Tonali and Joe Linton all together. Tonali's the only one in there at the minute. He's looking okay, but he looks isolated. He doesn't really know who to link up with. He doesn't know what passes to play, who's going to be in what positions. I don't even know what positions Willock and Ramsey are taking up. And if I can't see it from a wide angle and out, how are they meant to see it on the pitch? It's, at the minute, Newcastle have, to me, it looks like they gave them a position, a formation, and said go out and play, and they've no idea what positions to take up, where to track runners, track markers, actually try and press for the ball in and out of possession. It looks like City are just popping it around for fun and under no pressure whatsoever themselves. And I'm surprised that City haven't had more possession. 62% of the ball City have had, but in terms of shots, 12 shots to 4. 6 on target to Newcastle's 3. So when Newcastle have come forward, they've got them into good areas and made good saves out of James Trafford. And I've got to say, he has made 1 or 2 really good saves. But they've not done it anywhere near enough, and they haven't found the net. 2 key kind of points of trying to get back into a game from a deficit, and also the fact that they've just completely let Manchester City through at the other end without any sort of resistance. I mean, it's a concoction of terrible, terrible football from Newcastle. And again, a position of their season, you know, we talk about the elation of Arsenal, you know, dominant Premier League win and then a big win last night to go to a Carabao Cup final. And Newcastle are completely opposite. They were damaged with a defeat at the weekend and are going to be even more damaged by a big loss as the holders of this competition at the semi-final stage. And it's not going to do a world of good for their confidence that is already shattered. As I said, 1 win in the last 6 games in all competitions. No away wins this calendar year. It's not going to help. They have Brentford at home. We watch they take on Brentford on Saturday, but I mean, it's not going to get any easier. I mean, they host Brentford, they head to Spurs, they then have Villa away in the FA Cup, and then they've got Champions League games, the playoffs, knockout playoffs. Then they play City at the Etihad in the Premier League in around about 2.5 weeks' time. So they've countless games. I mean, how many games do they have in February? So this is their first game in February. They play 7 more games this month after tonight. 2 Champions League games, an FA Cup game, and work out my maths, 4 league games in that run, including a trip to Spurs and a trip to Manchester City on that run. It does not look good at all for Eddie Howe's Newcastle and what's to come. But anyway, the second half of this game is on the way very shortly if you're ever so intrigued. Let's hope you are, because it is an interesting second half to see how many City could score or if Newcastle can recover any sort of dignity from this game. At the weekend, we'll watch them take on Brentford in the Premier League. 3 games for you this weekend. Newcastle take on Brentford at St James's Park Saturday at 5:30. Then on Sunday, a doubleheader for you as we watch Brighton take on Palace in the derby that isn't a derby, it's a rivalry. I don't know what the whole drama about that is. And then on Sunday at 4:30, we conclude the weekend with our game of the week as Manchester City head to Anfield to take on Liverpool, a resurgent Liverpool as of recent, and we'll see how they can do in a fight for the title. City, which looks glim at the moment after they dropped points again at the weekend, and Arsenal did the exact opposite. And of course, this is in the balance, but of course the Super Bowl is this weekend. Seahawks taking on the Patriots Sunday at 11:15, and we will have coverage of that for you on Sunday evening. Right, second half between Newcastle and City is on the way right now. Forget about the ad breaks, forget about all our VTs. Let's just kick off the second half a little early, why not? I think they're all eager to get home tonight. I think that we all know where the result is going. And I think we're all like, let's just call it a day, get this game done as quickly as possible, and let's get out of here. Newcastle are going to make some 3 changes at the break. Johan Visa, Anthony Elanga, and Jacob Murphy are all coming on, it looks like. So, big changes for Eddie Howe's team. I mean, I could say anything right now and it'll be as relevant as that. I did get my graphics done, didn't I? I did. And I'll be able to show you that fantastic Carabao Cup final graphic at the final whistle, because we know who the teams are going to be. Just by what scoreline will Manchester City win by tonight? So Johan Visa, Anthony Elanga and Jacob Murphy all on. And I'm not too sure who's come off, but nonetheless, City have made a change of their own. Max Allain, the young defender who joined back from Watford, who was on loan and rejoined at the start of last month in the window, he's on to replace Nathan Ake at centre back. And those changes, by the way, Lewis Hall, Joe Willock and Nick Voltemada have all made way for Murphy, Elanga and Visa for Newcastle. Oh, they've given it away here right away, City. And it's Johan Visa who's completely missed the targets. Side of goal inside 30 seconds of the second half. I mean, it's really poor touch by Kushanov. Gave it away, and Johan Visa charging through, and he completely missed the target. I mean, James Trafford just watched it sail past him. There was no question of that was going wide. I gotta say, wasteful as well, Newcastle. Really wasteful. Because when they've got forward, they've got into good areas and tested the goalkeeper a few times, but again, not being clinical. I mean, it would have been one hell of a blockbuster. Manchester City had a goalkeeper who couldn't catch. I mean, Newcastle would have had quite a few goals. And yes, Harvey Barnes is on, Andy. Come on for Anthony Gordon in the first half, due to injury, of course. So Newcastle have in total made 4 changes. And City with just the 1 to this point. And with Lewis Hall coming off, and Newcastle not replacing with him with a like-for-like defender, because all 3 players that was brought on at half-time for Eddie Howe are all attackers. And I think it might be Jacob Murphy playing left wing-back at the minute, which is probably the exact opposite of his natural position, which is right wing. Max Elaine. Gonzalez back to Elaine, and he's gone back to Trafford. Not paying attention. Listen, very easily to miss, I gotta say. I mean, I don't want to be downhearted by this. It's still a big game. It's still important for Manchester City. But, you know, when you get yourself so caught up in maybe a comeback or maybe an entertaining game, or maybe Newcastle can give us a bit of entertainment for the first 20 minutes. I mean, it just followed the simple script of City would dominate at home, as they usually do. And Bruce, Newcastle aside, with ease, really. I mean, it's... I can't help but be disheartened by the fact that there's basically no storyline from this, other than the fact that City are cruising their way to the Carabao Cup final. Here's Elaine breaking forward. Cuts it back to Marmouche, who's still on a hat-trick, remember, after his 2 goals from the first half. Finds O'Reilly. Marmouche, back it goes to Gonzalez, and City pushing forward. Newcastle sitting deep. 5-4-1 as it stays out of possession for Newcastle. Gonzalez plays across to the right hand side. Back to Kushanov. Gonzalez. Feint the ball. Marmouche left it, and Trippier could retrieve, and now he tries to play Visa in behind against Kushanov, who has it covered and mopped up nicely. Here's Matej Nunes back to James Trafford. I mean, they're in such a comfortable position. I mean, it's a joke how comfortable Manchester City have been in this game. Even when Newcastle look like they're going to cause trouble, City just have it all dealt with. That's nice from Trippier, though. Finds Alanga. A little run on here. Couldn't get the cross in. Alanga well blocked by Max Elaine. It's behind for the corner, but again, a real direct run from the right flank. Good ball by Trippier down the line, and Alanga got the better of his man, and ultimately Max Elaine does well to recover, stays with him and makes the block to put it behind for the corner. But again, a bit more direct from Newcastle. Corner taken short. Barnes overlapping was Tonali, who lofted it into the middle, but right into the hands of James Trafford under no duress whatsoever. Semenyo, nice takedown in the Newcastle half. He's been a bit low-key tonight, Antoine Semenyo. Here's Marmouche, try to play it across. Don't know whether that was a shot or a cross, neither way. Found no one. Goal kick it will be, but I'm sure he will be hoping for a rare hat-trick tonight. Omar Marmouche. Erling Haaland's stolen quite a few hat-tricks in his City career. Sometimes even more. 4 goals in one game. And this, again, a simple little press from Manchester City. Absolutely terrifies Aaron Ramsdale. And the ball goes out for a City throw deep in Newcastle's half. Well, the votes continuing to come in the chat. Keep those votes coming in on that poll of who you want to win the Carabao Cup final. 59% saying Man City, 41% saying Arsenal. So City have taken the lead in that race, but still not conclusive. But keep your votes coming in. Thanks very much for getting involved. O'Reilly. Elaine, nice ball, finding Marmouche. Off him it goes to Reinders, who's gone through, wanting a penalty there as he's gone down. Well, referee had good view of it, never a penalty. Harvey Barnes. Sitting a bit deeper, trying to find Alanga in behind. Nice run, but second ball picked up by Murphy and played straight back to James Trafford. Don't know whether he tried to chip the goalkeeper or beat him as he thought he was off his line, but again, no success in that whatsoever. Bit of pressure here as Gonzalez in a tight gap, but Elaine finds it back to Trafford, who gets rid. Botman wins the first header. Second header actually won from deep to find Semenyo for City. Antoine Semenyo chops inside. He's got runners. He tried to play it through to Reinders. Well blocked off in the end by Byrne, but decent idea. Flip ball over the top. Again, Alanga making runs in behind Ryan Ait-Nouri. I'll say that really hasn't happened all night, really, for Newcastle down that right-hand side. As we saw that claim of a penalty by Gianni Rangers. Definitely not. Definitely not. If the one on Semenyo in the first half wasn't, then that one certainly isn't. None of them are. It's just, they're just too soft. Andy says, here's something shocking. Do you know who is the Gunners' second best goal scorer this season? Maybe do I know that? I think I might know this. Visa trying a bit of skill. Alanga trying it. Actually, unable to retrieve. Oh, Marmouche almost beating both Botman and Malik Chow there. Albeit finding its way to Tonali, does the ball, and again, comfortably retrieved. I think I've heard this. I think it's own goals. Oh, goodness. What's going on there? Max Elaine gets Absolutely bailed out. Johan Visser's down claiming a penalty. Eddie Howe saying the same, but I didn't quite see it, gotta say. Beautifully taken in by Semenyo, that. Of course, VAR will check, but I don't know what actually happened, whether they just get tangled or whether it was a foul. That's a ball in behind Marmouche. Chops back onto his right foot. Wants a side of goal, lays it off, and Yanni Reinders completely misses the target. Similar ball to when he scored his goal in the first half. The cutback that drops in his favour as he makes the late run into the box, and ultimately he dragged it well wide of goal. Beautiful first ball over the top though, taken in by Marmouche. And you think Marmouche is going to do everything to get himself into a scoring position. In the end, he sees the better option, trying to play a teammate in, and he lays it off to Reinders, who just angled all wrong. Didn't open his body enough, it was just too closed of an angle, and as he dragged it wide. See it here, Visa and Elaine. They just get dragged. Again, it's not a penalty. They both get tangled in with each other. They're both fighting for the ball. It's not a penalty. Yeah, play on. Honestly. I get Max Elaine's made the mistake and Johan Visa's pounced upon it and tried to keep a hold of the ball, but they're both battling for the ball. They're both scrapping a little bit. Got a hold of each other. There's nothing in it. You've got to say, is Newcastle's season just collapsing in front of our eyes, really? Albeit they're in the knockout stages of the Champions League, which is a positive. Of course, they're still in the FA Cup, but in terms of the league, they're quite a distance off Champions League places. And dropping out of this competition, it was a real catalyst for how well their season had been last campaign, winning this trophy and then getting automatic Champions League football. I mean, a quality season last season, hard to live up to, of course, and hard to match season in, season out, but really this season falling apart, and then their recent results in the Premier League not going in their favour either. It seems like our Newcastle running out of steam at just the start of February. Of course, we'll see in the next few weeks whether they progress in the FA Cup, and then of course whether they go through in the Champions League to the round of 16, but you know, very quickly by the end of this month, Newcastle could be scraping just to get Europe in the Premier League, and no trophies, no kind of outside action, and just league football between now and the end of the season. Albeit I'm looking at it a very negative approach, but you've got to say from their recent performances how open they've looked defensively and how lacking they've looked in front of goal. It's not a good combination. Gonzalez again trying that chip ball over the top. Second ball won by Foden, taken in by Nunes. Across to O'Reilly it comes, just short of the hour mark. City 3, Newcastle 0. City lead by 5 goals to 0 on aggregate. Little 1-2 give and goes. Foden, Reinders, Gonzalez telling Kushanov to push up, and in the end he didn't, but City retrieve possession, albeit Semenyo gives it away cheaply and then works to win it back right away. I mean, they're getting bored of passing it to each other, City. They're passing it to Newcastle and then getting it back. Giving it away a little cheaply there, as Visa has nowhere to go, albeit he's going to get the free kick as he was fouled. And those travelling Newcastle supporters, a night they'll want to forget, albeit supporting their team to the very end. But I mean, it is not the night they probably would have dreamt of by any of their wildest dreams, or even wildest nightmares, really, the way this one's turned out. Deep ball over the top from Trippier. Battling with the headers at City, clear it away. Tonali tries to flick it back in behind. Flicked on again. A bit of head tennis here as Newcastle try and hit something from range. But Malik Chow's effort guided wide, well wide in the end. Just didn't strike it cleanly enough, Malik Chow, in the end. A quick update on the votes on the poll. Who do you want to win the Carabao Cup final? At the minute, keep those votes coming in. It's great to have your interaction with you and your involvement in the chat. But at the minute, it's 61% for Manchester City saying they want City to win, 39% in Arsenal's favour. So it seems like City's strength is growing in the poll. But have your say. Who you want to win the final, not who you think will win the final, but who you want to win this season's competition. For me, I don't really care. As a neutral, I mean, it's not a major deal in terms of whoever wins, congratulations, well done to them. And it's no surprise that the top two teams in the Premier League are the two teams that will be in the Carabao Cup final. But at the same time, you know, Chelsea and Newcastle have given it a good go this season, and seasons of transition for both clubs. Here's Elanga, brought some bright spark, and he's got a goal for Newcastle. Maybe it's a shot in the dark and just to really make it a little bit more respectable on the night, but their first of the tie comes in the 62nd minute of the second leg. And Anthony Elanga, who's looked bright since coming on, he's looked like the only outlet for Newcastle tonight. He breaks off that right-hand side. City, doing maybe what Newcastle have done with them all night, just stood off. No one really wanted to put in a tackle. Gets past Reinders, gets past Aït-Nouri, gets past O'Reilly. And as O'Reilly shows him onto that left foot, Anthony Elanga finds the far inside of the far post. And it finds a way past James Trafford. City 3, Newcastle 1. Still 5-1 on the night, or on aggregate, shall I say. I mean, a mountain, if there's any mountain bigger than Everest, that's what Newcastle have to face, but they've got a goal. And Anthony Elanga with it. Really good finish, really good individual quality from Anthony Elanga, you got to say. Funnily enough, Malik Chow got the assist on that one. I think that's a little bit kind. I think it was what you call a solo goal from Anthony Elanga. He created it all himself. I mean, he received the ball in the right touchline and had ended up finishing. I mean, that's an individual goal in my eyes. Although maybe it's given Newcastle a little bit of energy. And I'm not saying they're going to get back into this game, but I'm just saying that maybe it makes it a little bit more respectable of a tie. As they wanted the free kick and it's been given for Manchester City. Jacob Murphy getting a little too physical. Free kick given. Yeah, by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that they're getting back into this, but a goal's a goal. And it's his first of the season, can you believe, for Anthony Elanga. He hasn't scored in any competition so far, only one assist he'd recorded before tonight's game, and that was in the Premier League. And that assist came all the way back in a 4-1 win over Everton back in November, so it's been quite a while since he's got anywhere near the score sheet. Certainly in Nottingham Forest colours, he didn't score in the Carabao Cup last season, nor the season before. Even when he was at Manchester United, it was a struggle for him to get on the score sheet in this competition. If I'm not mistaken, this might be his first ever League Cup goal, and I do believe it is. Not in the circumstances he would have wanted it to be, but it is. A little bit more energy though about Newcastle. We do say goals change games. Alanga in behind here. Again, he gets past Max Elaine, who did well individually. Tussling well. I think he's going to be given the free kick anyway, as he was clattered, to say the very least, by Joe Willock. Free kick it is. And maybe this is a good example of the atmosphere inside the Etihad tonight. City are 5-1 up on aggregate. They're 3-1 up on the night. They're definitely going to Wembley. But the noisiest faction inside this stadium are the travelling Newcastle supporters who's singing Anthony Alanga's name, who scored the consolation goal in what has been a trudging defeat that it will be. I mean, if that doesn't say what it needs to say to you, I don't know what is. I mean, one team are dominant and the other are being destroyed, and it's the team that's being destroyed whose fans are the loudest. Let's just leave that there. Let's say no more. Well, a quarter of this game to go. City 3-1 up on the night, 5-1 on aggregate. Newcastle with that goal back in the last few minutes from Anthony Alanga. Andy says it's a long way back to up there. Glad they got something for the fans. Here's a ball in behind Visa. Across. They're in again here. Newcastle. Barnes! He's got another one, has he? Flag's gone up. They thought they'd got another one there, Newcastle. And Harvey Barnes, I don't think, got himself back on at any stretch here. I think he was offside anyway. Johan Visa, was he? Yeah, he was quite a yard or two offside there, Visa, and then Barnes, don't think he was onside either. They find the net again, though. Albeit disallowed, but again, maybe a little worry for Pep Guardiola that this team have just lost full control and maybe got a little bit complacent in this game and are starting to leak chances. They don't want to go from a dominant win to a whimper and just scraping over the line. But I think he's going to reflect that little bit of, not nervousness, but just needing to reassert dominance a little bit, City, and control in the game. And I think he's going to make a triple change here, Pep Guardiola. Just to really shore this one up. It wasn't already assured, but you know what I mean. Ciao. Ooh, a little bit loose. Couldn't find Tonali. Said he could be in for another one. Foden just couldn't get it to Semenyo. Sloppy from Malik Chow. He's had a torrid night, I gotta say. Somehow he's been credited with an assist. I don't know how. Here they come, Newcastle. Has he stayed onside this time? Barnes across. Alanga's missed the target. Gift of a chance to get his second. And I think this one will be one of those where you look to the sky and go, why, oh why did that one go wide? I mean, 4 Newcastle players on the back line of City. Oh, and it's tight. Whether Barnes stayed onside or not, it's Kushanov that's the last man, and whether he did hold his run to perfection or not is inconclusive, but from the naked eye it looked like he maybe just stayed on. As he played it across for Alanga, you wait for it to be 3-2 on the night. And ultimately, he misses the target completely. And I told you a little earlier about Newcastle being wasteful. It's another example of it. They've had quite a few chances after being completely cast adrift. The chances they've created, Newcastle, have not been bad chances. They've just been really wasteful in front of goal. Like, really wasteful. So, triple change for Pep Guardiola, and it's not young kids or unknowns that are coming on. It's very well-knowns. Rodri, Cherki and Haaland are all coming on. And Rodri's going to replace Nico O'Reilly. Erling Haaland, as you would expect, will replace... actually, not as you would expect. He will replace Antoine Semenyo. And Ryan Cherki will replace Phil Foden. So Omar Marmoush is staying on the pitch, and he's maybe going to get a chance at getting his hat-trick. Foden, Semenyo and O'Reilly all off. And Rodri, Haaland and Cherki all on. Cherki, who scored the second goal in the first leg. Erling Haaland, of course, on alongside Omar Marmoush, which would be very intriguing to see which way this turns out. In less than 20 minutes. I mean, Newcastle have the impossible to do. Score 4 goals without reply in 20 minutes. Less than that. If Harvey Barnes could have stayed onside on those 2 occasions, and Anthony Alanga could have finished his dinner on that last occasion, maybe it would have been a game of it, as challenged by Nuri, but the flag was up anyway against Alanga. I mean, at least they're making runs in behind. At least they're trying things, Newcastle. I mean, it's 60 minutes too late, but I mean, I don't understand it. Very clearly offside again there. No question about it. As I say, at least they're trying things. Ooh, Haaland holding off. Dan Burnwell trying to find Marmoush. Malik Chow just got in the way of him. And the ball back to Ramsdale. Trying to do some skill. Erling Haaland got some block on that. Came pinging back towards Ramsdale's goal before he got the grab on it, but a bit too blasé from Aaron Ramsdale. They're now putting out the olays, the Newcastle fans. Give them credit, they've good humour. I'll give them that. Your team are getting thumped. They're definitely going home with defeat and knocked out of this competition, and an end to their holding of this trophy. But at least their fans can see the funny side of it. Olays. Well, one back by Newcastle. Oh, a fainted ball in behind. They might have another chance. Barnes hit it straight at. I think that was Mateus Nunes that was in his way. And I've got to say, fair play to Newcastle. This second half could have really turned into a massive rout. And City could have really made it embarrassing. They could have added more to the scoreline. The way they played in that first half, I mean, it was dreadful, Newcastle, and they deserved to be 3-0 down. But I think from the second half, I think the performance had been stronger defensively. Maybe it's the fact that City have been a little bit more relaxed about it, that they've cruised their way to the lead, and they're like, we can just pop it around and try and control the game now. And they've got a little bit complacent, City, at times. But Newcastle have given a much better account of themselves in the second half. But maybe, as I said, that the damage was done and City really didn't need to do much more. At least they're winning the second half. They're not winning that occasion. Free kick. I mean, the ball was in the back of the Newcastle net. City thought they'd scored a fourth, but the whistle had already gone. It was a Newcastle free kick. That's why I didn't react. Tonali on the half turn. They get away from Gonzalez and wins the throw-in out of Nico Gonzalez. Sandro Tonali. And Newcastle going to go to their bench again. For the fifth and final time, it's going to see Wulasula, I believe, coming on. And he's coming on to replace Kieran Trippier. Fascinating. So Trippier off. And Osula on. So both wing backs at the start of the night, Trippier and Hall off, and replaced by wingers, essentially, or forward players. Whatever you want to categorise Murphy and Osula as, but they're definitely forward players. Maybe one last throw of the dice at maybe something miraculous. However outlandish it might seem. Nice ball into the path of Marmouche. Cuts it back. Cherky on the spin. Cleared away by Byrne. Well, a trip to Anfield on Sunday is not going to be easy for Manchester City. Already in a deficit in the title race, and Arsenal in pole position. City really need an all-time result out of the game at Anfield on Sunday if they're going to catapult them right back into the question and really concern Arsenal. And they've still to play each other in the latter stages of the campaign in, I believe, in April. So that could be a big game come that point. But it's Arsenal, all in Arsenal's hands, and they host Sunderland on Saturday to the Gunners. Yeah, Gonzalez given a yellow card for a foul. But you got to say, City going to a final, into the round of 16 of the Champions League. Of course, still in the FA Cup, obviously, and all looking rosy as they're in a title race. It's very Pep Guardiola at Manchester City type vibes. Last season was a real blip. This season, not quite back to the old City that we knew that dominated everything, but they're certainly on the right path. They're trying to chase that old record down. Ramsdale with a long boot. Headed down by Kushanov. Now Gonzalez. A little short to Gonzalez again, though, from Rodri, but it works out. City just, again, back into passing mode. Pass and move. Just confident, settled. One of the words I would use with City tonight, composure. Even when Newcastle have tried to impose a little bit of pressure, they've just known where the next pass is going to be at any given moment. And I've just been so at ease. And the question comes to mind, you know, what could have been for Newcastle? Really, on the night, it's get home and try and forget this ever happened. Erling Haaland into Marmouche, who is so desperate for that hat-trick, but not with those types of finishes, he'll not get it. But Haaland set him up, and Marmouche couldn't keep the shot down. Goal kick. Albeit I have no inclination, actually no bias towards Omar Marmouche, but just for him, he's a really good player and probably has very little look in with Erling Haaland starting up front for City so often. And I mean, that would be a stupid decision not to start him. I think Omar Marmouche would start him, but still, it would be good for him to have his night and complete that hat-trick. Would be something quite nice to see. Albeit, as I said, I have absolutely no bias and I don't really care in the grand scheme of things, but it'd be quite nice. Last 10 minutes at the Etihad, and albeit it's been a formality for quite a long time. Of course, we can't officially show you until it's done and dusted, because I don't want to look stupid in case the miraculous happens, but you never know. Oh, an awkward bounce, ball across, all the way through and out the other end. That very much could have been another Newcastle goal, and probably should have been another Newcastle goal from the position that it took up. I mean, I think Maxalane just misjudges the bounce of the ball from the free kick, and as it drops back post to Anthony Alanga, and Visa's in the middle, and if he had the height of Nick Voltemata, Johan Visa could have got on the end of this one. Stretches for it a little too late, and he can't stretch far enough. Goal kick. But I gotta say, if there's one player for Newcastle that deserves to be the first name on the team sheet come their next game, it has to be Anthony Alanga, because he has come onto this pitch in the second half and given Newcastle some form of life when they looked like they were dead and buried and were never going to do anything in this game. He's given them an outlet, he's given them a threat. I've got to say, I think a lot of Newcastle fans will be calling for him to get the nod next time out, because he has, despite a torrid game, been probably the only light that's been lit. Here is Erling Haaland! Oh, good save by Ramsdale. You were just waiting for the net to ripple, and Aaron Ramsdale with a really good save to deny Erling Haaland. Good run, good pass, should have been a goal. Yeah, beautiful little pass by, is it Rodri? No, it's actually Cherky, beautiful. And as he finds Haaland with a run, that diagonal that he makes across the edge of the area, tries to reverse it back across goal. The run he makes so often, and usually the finish that he gets so often. Instead, he's going to make another change. Going to see Rico Lewis replace Nico Gonzalez. Good 80 odd minutes in the books for Nico Gonzalez. Corner for City, taken short. Cherky. And Cherky just skips away from his man. Again, still well tracked, but found it to Reinders. Now Rodri. Lewis. Rodri. Back to Maxalane, who will take no risks and go back to his goalkeeper. A reminder for you, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on post notifications. We're back with both of these teams actually in action on LFS in the Premier League at the weekend. Newcastle taking on Brentford on Saturday night, and Liverpool against City on Sunday afternoon. To keep your eyes on, as well as Brighton against Palace across the weekend in the Premier League. Looking forward to all of those games. If you don't want to miss them, do like, subscribe, and of course turn on post notifications if you haven't done so already. I think we're incredibly close to 31,000 subscribers, so if you could help us push for that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Right, Nuri making the run down the left, wins a free kick out of Jacob Murphy. Yeah, right, Nuri's a player tonight as well for City that's impressed, I think. I gotta be honest. Maybe something for Pep Guardiola to think about for his team in the coming games. It will be a tough schedule. Cherky to take the free kick, trying to go himself, and Haaland was trying to zip across the front post, but the ball found its way into the arms of Ramsdale. Five minutes to go of normal time. I can't believe I had the audacity to actually say before kickoff that there's extra time and penalties, if necessary. I mean, who was to foresee what would happen? But I mean, referee plays advantage here. Cherky picks it up. Ryan Cherky across to Haaland. Haaland! Good save by Ramsdale again. Gotta say, Aaron Ramsdale has something against Erling Haaland. Because two of his best saves tonight have come against the Norwegian. And two moments that probably should have been two Erling Haaland goals. This one a little bit closer to Ramsdale, not quite towards the corner. A little bit lofted into his path, and ultimately Ramsdale made the save. Put behind for another City corner. He hasn't scored against Newcastle since a 3-3 Premier League draw in August of 2022, Erling Haaland. Corner taken short. Rounders. Cherky getting a little bit muddled. Cherky back to the edge of the area. Ball was attempted a lifted cross, was low, and Rodri from the edge. Straight down the throat of Ramsdale. Andy says, have they done man of the match yet? They haven't. But I have no doubt who it's going to be. It should be Omar Marmoush. We'll end that poll in the chat of who you want to win the final. 63% saying City, 37% to Arsenal. I'll give you a quick short list of players who of the Player of the Match award. I mean, there's only one in my mind. He's played unbelievably tonight. And I'm only going to put this player in just for the fact of his second half performance. But these are my three candidates, I'd say. But have your say in the poll. Who you think your player of the match is? Omar Marmoush, Gianni Reinders, or Anthony Elanga, or someone else? Let us know who you think's had a good game. Ait Nouri's had a good game. Gonzalez had a good game. I mean, James Trafford had a good game. A couple of saves that he's had to make have been good. I mean, Ramsdale and Elanga, I'd say the only two Newcastle players that have had a respectable game. No one else has really done anything from a Newcastle point of view. We'll keep those votes coming in. We'll close that poll at the end of the game. We'll announce who your player of the match is. Well, the stadium announcer has given the player of the match to Omar Marmoush. Not a surprise. And also have the broadcaster. So I think a lot of people are in agreement that Omar Marmoush is the player of the match of this game. First two goals. He was two very different goals as well. One was a poacher and one was a real good run. A real good aggressive athletic finish. Oh, sloppy from City at the back here. Tonali. Straight down the throat of Trafford. Snatching at it there a little bit. Cherky. Beautiful little skill. Applauded by the... I think it's the most noise the City fans have made all night. No offence. I say it with tongue in cheek. I say it as a joke. It's not that deep. Rounders. Space down the right channel. It's going to lay it out wide. Last 30 seconds of the 90 minutes. And I think the City fans want to beat the traffic. They know what's going to happen. I mean, I think we've known what's going to happen from the first half, but they do now know conclusively what's going to happen, and surely probably what the scoreline's going to be as well. And some of them trying to get out early and certainly beat the Manchester traffic. 90 minutes are up. See how long will be added on to see how many minutes it will be before Man City confirm their place in the Carabao Cup final. And it's just 2 minutes. Sympathy from the referee just to get this game done and dusted. as there's going to be a yellow card handed out here. Anthony Alanga's brought down, and it's going to be Ryan Out Nuri given a booking. Gotta say, I think Andy said it in the chat, the second half man of the match has been Anthony Alanga, no doubt. Certainly, he's been fantastic since coming on. In terms of the votes in the chat, Marmouche is winning by 80% of the vote, and only Alanga. Tiani Renders has no votes at the minute. I mean, it's a short list. Marmouche surely has to be winning it, no doubt, in my opinion. Free kick here for Newcastle. Last minute of the game, of the tie, and of their season in this competition. And they couldn't even get the cross into the box. Jacob Murphy didn't even beat the first man. Wow. Ramsdale received it, kicking it long. Flick on in behind. Haaland's back, playing right back at the minute for City. Erling Haaland. Maybe they can snatch another one late here. Haaland on the breakaway. He's it to Cherky. Trying to find anybody through, but he's ended up holding on to it and picked up a good yard of space himself. Nice drag by Reinders, trying to lift it in behind. Couldn't quite do so. Marmouche wrestling to win it back. Maybe he'll get one more chance, or maybe this will be all she wrote, really. Ball out to the left-hand side, Out Nuri. Kept it in play, but the final whistle goes. Manchester City into the Carabao Cup final. First time in 5 years. The holders knocked out in what was a pretty embarrassing first half, where they really were torn to pieces by Manchester City. 3-0 down inside 32 minutes on the night, 5 on aggregate. Omar Marmouche with the first two. Real classy performance from him, a player of the match performance. Tiani Rounders added a third when he picked up on a loose ball inside the 18-yard area. In the end, they made it a little bit more respectable, Newcastle, in the second half. When Anthony Alanga came on, he made it a good threat. He got his first goal of the season with that consolation at the start of the second half. But ultimately, absolutely dominated probably the whole way through this tie, Newcastle. They were nowhere near it at any point. They met their match in this season's competition. They were the team to beat, and they have been beaten just one step before the Wembley final, which they claimed victory last season. But it will be one of Arsenal or Manchester City that will claim this season's trophy, and we can confirm for you that very fact. Arsenal will take on Manchester City in the 2026 Carabao Cup final on Sunday, the 22nd of March, to see who will pick up this competition's big prize. Will it be Arsenal? For the first time in 33 years was the last time they won this trophy. Arsenal back in 1993. And their first final in 8 years for the Gunners. For Manchester City, a first final in 5. And they won that final 5 years ago in 2021. And they have picked up most of their Carabao Cup trophies under Pep Guardiola. Can he lift another one before he departs at some point in the future? Right, that is confirmation. A quick look at what we've got coming up, though, before we leave you tonight. And that is a triple header of Premier League action this weekend. We start on Saturday evening as Newcastle are back in action, looking to bounce back from back-to-back defeats in all comps, and they take on Brentford. Not an easy task at all. A Brentford side who are pushing up for European places of their own. They take on Newcastle at St James's Park Saturday at 5:30, and what will be a pretty ample atmosphere. On Sunday, a double header as Brighton take on Palace on the south coast at the Amex. 2 o'clock on Sunday, followed by the main event, the game of the week, as Liverpool take on Manchester City. 4:30 on Sunday. We'll see if City can close the gap and keep on the coattails of Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal play before City, so they will have to react to whatever Arsenal do the day prior. And they take on a Liverpool side who are looking to keep up what has been a decent return of form after their first league win of the calendar year last weekend. can they make it back-to-back home wins against decent opposition in their chase for Champions League football? That is all of our Premier League action for this weekend. But one more game to go in this competition. It's Arsenal against City in the final. Who will take home the big prize of the trophy? Will it be the Gunners or will it be City? Certainly there was no question of what after the first half tonight what was going to happen and who would be facing each other in the final. It's exactly what we want. The Premier League's top two facing off for a trophy in around about I think 5-6 weeks time, and we'll see you then for that one. For now, thanks for your company, and we'll see you again soon. Good night.